Unsyndicated presents What the Puck with Sean Baligian.
So what is up? Glad you can join us wherever you may be tonight. We're in my basement. He's Mike. I'm Sean. This is something we just decided to do during the playoffs because, quite frankly, Mike, there are a bunch of people just doing what we're doing right now, right?
Well,
that's the best way to say it.
And that's who we want to connect with, who's watching it. And if you're at home watching it, why not have a conversation, ask some questions, check out what's going on with us.
It's better than watching the CBC intermission stuff. There was a time in our lifetime, not that long ago, that you couldn't miss what was happening on CBC in the intermissions. And Mike, now to be honest with you, I don't ever watch it. I really don't. I feel badly saying it, but I don't ever watch it.
Yeah, I think we're both on the same page with that, where we haven't watched CBC in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the intermissions. I mean, we can watch the games, the play-by-play and stuff, but when you get to the intermissions, and we won't even go there with what we think is going on there, it's unwatchable.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is going on in this game? We'd love to get your thoughts, what you've seen in the first two periods of this one. Florida gets one late. It was huge because it looked as though, especially with that save by Swayman late in the period, it looked like they were going to get out, only down by a goal. That's a huge power play goal late in that period.
It's huge for several reasons. For one, they couldn't get anything together, so they're starting to score from the outside, but they broke the witchcraft that was Swayman we've been talking about for this entire game since I got here. The guy's got some magic spell going right now, and he's been on fire. In our group text with our friend Jim Humenschmidt, you even said it. If Swayman keeps playing like this, watch out. And as soon as you say it, they pop three on him, that third one being a huge one, especially because there's not a lot of room out there tonight.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room out there. No one's getting inside. The refs are kind of letting the boys play. The boys aren't being boys, but they're letting them play. It's kind of settled down. I think Boston's got to get back to playing the rat like they did last game.
So, two things. I said this when I was talking to Blake last night on our show. Mike, I'll ask you, Are we, and when I say we, I mean the collective hockey fans out there, sleeping on the Bruins a little bit? Because it's almost like the Bruins are reminding everybody that they have been one of the best teams for quite some time.
Yeah.
And listen, I hate the Bruins. Have I ever brought that up? I hate the Bruins. But let me tell you something. I respect the way that they've conducted their business. I think Sweeney continued to be in the hunt. And the way that Swayman's been playing, makes me say to myself, well, are we sleeping on the Bruins a little bit?
Yes. And we talked about this as we were barbecuing the sausages here today, that everyone seems to forget what happened not too long ago. We did it with Florida last year. They make the finals. Everyone's surprised. We're like, not only a year or two ago, they were the Cup favorites.
Yep.
They were favored to win it. Last year, Boston has a historic kind of season. They win all the games. They win the regular season. They get in. They choke a 3-1 lead against Florida. Bergeron, we have some people leave, right? And it's over. It's done. The big line that they have is all done. You forget this is still a solid, good team that can play hockey. And then you get what we didn't get last year. You got Swayman playing well. Mm-hmm. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, it was Allmark last year that played, right? That hit. So you get the goaltending, you get them playing. They were containing Florida, and they were beating Florida at their game.
Yeah.
And that has just changed in the second period.
Couple comments already. Would love to hear from you as well. Our buddy Paul. Hi, Paul. Florida owned the second period. Nick jumped in. Swayman appeared to be inside the minds of Florida until the second period. You know what's interesting about that? Mike and I were talking about this. I don't know if you guys saw the same thing. I don't want to take anything away from Swayman because I agree with you. There's no doubt about that. But Boston was doing a really good job of packing it in deep and not allowing Florida to get down low. And you could tell in the early portions of that second period that Florida said, we have to go do the dirty work again. We have to do what made us so successful at playoff time last year. And they started to get in deep. And it's funny because now they're showing some of the highlights here from the game. And as we speak, Mike, and I don't know what they're saying because, quite frankly, I don't listen to the intermissions anymore. But they're showing guys get in behind the D, like the tip on by Lawrence, their first goal of the game. And then look at the traffic in front on that second goal. That's stuff that you weren't seeing earlier.
Yes. The first thing you do when Boston's or any other team is locking it down in front, the D's blocking shots, the D's push out, you have a tendency to back out. And I think that's what I was saying. Paul Maurice has got to get some magic going in that locker room for the second period. They clearly said, guys, our game is right there, 5 feet in front of that goalie. We have to get there. And it starts with a turnover on that first goal, but there was no D there. But what you end up doing is you wear that D down. They're getting tired. Carlo's getting tired. These guys are getting beat down, and the big fellas from Florida are getting in front again.
Obviously, we'd love to get your thoughts. That's why we're here. Just a bunch of guys talking hockey. As Mike said, look, I'm going to take an easy one, okay? We literally had a sausage fest tonight, okay? Legitimately, we did. We did some firecracker sausage. We did some andouille sausage. We did some cheddar sausage. And you know what? Just a couple of old-fashioned hot dogs as well.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it was just a sausage fest. But what are you seeing in this game? What are you seeing in the playoffs? I love this series. I think, I've been saying it for a while. We've been saying it for a while on What the Puck. We both like what Florida was doing back when it wasn't cool to talk about Florida a couple months ago. But I'm going to say it again. Boston keeps this up. They're going to be tough for anybody to beat.
Yeah, they're a good team. They beat Florida in game one, being the Florida team that we love to watch during the regular season. And again, right now, you're hearing it all over the broadcast. Marchand is playing like a man possessed. The guy's having a great playoff. He's having a great game today, but unfortunately, not too many other people are. And I think people started to get maybe a little bit excited when Pasta scored the overtime goal in Game 7. Where's he at now? Where's Pasta now? I don't.
Yep, that's exactly it. Paul said, feels like the tide is turning. It looks like a power play at certain points in time. Something again that Blake and I were talking about that it's almost like we all forgot is Bob. What about Bob? You don't know what Bob you're going to get. You just don't know what Bob you're going to get. Is he going to be confused, Bob? Is he going to be distracted, Bob? That is a huge, huge factor in this series, Mike.
Last year, he was possessed, Bob.
Yes.
He was absolutely on fire. He was on a different planet than everybody else. Right now, I don't know what Bob we have because we've seen possessed Bob, and then a few times today, we saw confused Bob. Guys in front of his net, he's got his arms up. He doesn't quite know where he's going. He's missed a few shots that he should have had. So he seems to be teetering one way or another. I don't know which way it's going to go, but it's coming soon. And if it's confused Bob, watch out because here comes Boston.
We'd love to have some conversation with you, not only about what you're seeing in this game, but certainly what you're seeing overall so far in the playoffs. Does anybody jump out to you? We'll get to Colorado in a minute because they've become a great story again. Tim said, love hockey. I will say Boston is playing great. Marchand is playing great. He is just, I love watching that guy play. I'm sorry. I just do.
When you can see a guy of his stature, he's a small guy, and you can't knock him off the puck or get him down a lot of times. If he wants to go down and draw a penalty, we know he's a rat. He's going to go down. He's hard to get off that puck. Mm-hmm. He is so friggin' good.
So a lot of things going on. Colorado. Now, I'm going to say this again. I had, at the beginning of the season, I had Colorado, Florida in the playoffs. And I called Mike probably 2 months ago now. And I was watching Colorado, and I said, something's off with Colorado. I don't like Colorado. Yeah. And I'll tell you what. I didn't like Colorado through the first 2 games and 1 period of the playoff either. And it's funny because you and me and our mutual boy, Hubie, were talking about this, and we were talking about just like what happened. They're so bad defensively. And really, from that first period in game number 3, they've been a different team.
Yes. And I'm going to still go back into the regular season where I think teams that are already in the playoffs take their foot off the gas, and that hurts them. And what ends up happening is some teams never recover from it. You definitely see it in the regular season. I think it took Colorado just a couple of games in that one period to get it back, because when they got it back, there was no mistaking who they were. They were back to who they were, and they absolutely owned Hellebuck and the Jets in that series.
Big time.
I mean, 5 goals a game against the guy's probably going to win the Vezina.
Paul said he's going Ben Bishop. You don't know with Bob. I mean, that's like really, you don't know with Bob. That's the thing with Bob is Bob could go Bob.
A perfect example of what we're talking about is how good he was in that the sweep with before he got to Columbus.
Yes.
With Tampa Bay.
Yes.
He was again on a different planet, and then the next series he was, what about Bob? Where is it?
Yep.
What's going on here?
Yep.
That's how he can go.
So, your thoughts. This is why we're here. We're talking with you guys. Right now, who looks to be the favorite? Who's the team that looks to be the favorite? I told Mike, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Dallas, and then Dallas ended up getting the first seed. And then everybody and their brother seemingly took Vegas in that series. Yeah. And boy, I looked smart last night in the first period. Now, in fairness, I was goo baby. I went to sleep. I did. I was out like a light. I didn't see Colorado come roaring back. Nope. I didn't see them get the win or anything like that. But the first period of the game, we were even talking amongst ourselves, going, well, good. I don't have to stay up and watch this. Dallas jumps out to that 3-0 lead. Yeah. And the way Ottinger has been playing, was the thing that made me say, okay, it's crazy that you would say a number 1 seed is an underdog, but seemingly nobody's talking about Dallas.
Yes. I reluctantly put some money on Colorado. I had them at a plus 105, so I got plus money on them because I think they're going to win the series. But I hesitated because of Ottinger. Ottinger has looked like one of the better, if not the best goalie in the playoffs right now. The guy's just making saves all over the place. And then at the other end, you never know what you're going to get there with Gorgiev, however you want to say it. But that if there's a team that's left that can match the size, skill, and I'm not going to go speed because I think Edmonton can still match him with speed, but the size and the skill is Dallas can match Colorado. Not many teams can, and that's what I think is putting them over the edge to be everybody's favorite.
Paul said Dallas in the West, the Rangers in the East.
I don't think either of them are getting out of their series this series.
I don't like the Rangers.
I've
said it, and I could be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. I think I told you Aaron Ward swore to me. He was like, dude, the Rangers are going to win it all. Like, don't be dumb. The Rangers are going to win it all. And look, they're up 2-0 right now against Carolina. Obviously you'd rather be up 2-0. I don't know if I'd feel real good about it though.
No, they did what they're supposed to do. They won at home. And why are they up? So we'll get to a couple things here on this one. Is you didn't like the Rangers and you went against what Aaron Warren had said because you didn't like the Rangers sandpaper. And
I don't.
And I brought up the guys that they've brought in, from the last couple, Goudreau's been getting there, Rempe and stuff like that. And then I think Shesterkin can steal a series at any time.
No question.
However, I like Carolina in the series. I still like Carolina in the series.
So do I.
I bet Carolina after they lost game 1 because their odds went way up. And I'm still not worried about it.
Yeah.
Because they have not lost at home. Now, obviously, if they lose game 3, all bets are off. I mean, it's done. But they're doing exactly what they need to do. They're still in position to steal one against the Rangers. And if there's a team, do I like the Rangers? Yes. But Carolina, just like we like Florida, is the same heavy, gritty East team that can play. But I'm going to I am worried because Anderson looks absolutely lost in that.
And
Absolutely. At least 2 of the goals last night, he just lost the puck in him.
Yep.
He had the puck, he
Yep.
had the save, and he lost it and flies back and kicks out, rebound goal. At least 2 of the goals.
I've told I don't like that Panarin. I just don't. That's not the type of guy that I want to go to war with. And
He had me cracking up last night because he was bailing on the zone so
does it all the
fast,
time.
so
It's
fast.
it's incredible. It is incredible.
I think of what you say every time I saw it. I'm like, he's just what is he, about a 90-foot player? Do you give
Maybe 100. Maybe we'll give
player?
maybe we'll give him 100. I'm sorry. I think that's the type of guy that loses you a series. I'm serious. I'm not being funny. A couple other comments. Nick said, I thought last November, December, the Rangers would win this, and I have to stick with that. I agree with Ward. I know you don't agree, Sean. I don't know. I keep getting surprised so far. Look, right now, if we're being honest, in the East, there's nobody that jumps out to you. I mean, if anybody jumps out to you, it's the Rangers. I mean, if you're just basing it on results so far.
How far are they going to let, and I'm not going to throw conspiracies out there, are they going to let the power plays dictate the success?
You're going there already.
Because you have
no, go on your rant. I'm going to go. No, I'm with you. You know, I agree with you.
Rangers
I'm going to drink. So you go rant to everybody right now. I'll be right back.
The Rangers are winning, but how long can you do it with how many power plays they're getting? And how long is Carolina not going to be able to stop the power play? So we're going to get on a rant here when he gets back from drinking and not wanting to listen about the power plays. But we don't know what you guys are thinking out there, but we do think that the refs are getting in the way. And I think the series that they're getting in the way the most is the Rangers series. And it's, as you used the word, horseshit. The horseshit part of it is that I believe that has given, and hey, Carolina's got to do their part and stop it, but it's given the Rangers the edge. They got one of the best, if not the best, power play in the NHL. But for me personally, this isn't a betting thing or anything like that. For me, it is ruining a series that has the potential to be piss and vinegar and a great classic all-time. I think I texted you just the other day, an all-time classic series. They're 5-on-5. And there's fits of it with the tussling and Trocheck and Fox and all these guys going at it. It could be a class and lead to what? A rivalry.
I love Ted. By the way, good evening, Ted. You're familiar with Vinny Trocheck's game even more so than I. But I was telling Mike tonight, let me tell you something. I always appreciated that kid when he played for Saginaw. Always appreciated that kid. It seemed like every year he didn't have a lot around him. When he came to a loaded Whalers team, to see him game in, game out, to watch him 60 minutes a game, he's a heck of a player, man. That is a heck of a player. Got the winner last night. As Blake pointed out, top 5 PK, top 5 power play in the league all season. Let me say this to your point. If you continue to call it like they've called it, that is heavy advantage Rangers.
Yes.
But what it reminds me of, and I had a rant about this back in the day when I was working at the Fan, it's like stars on ice shit. Like it really is. It's like pretty power plays and PKs. And like when they first came back after the lockout, remember the 05-06 season, it was just Disney stars on ice, and let's just get all the power plays out there. Now, in fairness, and Mike and I have been paying attention tonight, they've called it the way it should be called here tonight. There have been calls made that where you're like, and then you see the replay and like, no, you got to call that, okay?
Yep.
It's when you're going over the top. That's the stuff that drives me out of my freaking mind. 3-1, early third period. We're watching the game with you. We're going to be talking about a bunch of shit until this game ends. Glad you could join us. Nothing fancy here tonight. We're just a bunch of hockey fans getting together watching the game. Blake said, speaking of fan, Shep and Sean tomorrow at 10 a.m. We're going to have Art Regner on.
Oh,
we can pick Art's brain on what's going on with the Wings and certainly what's going on with the Griffins as well.
It would be great to hear what he has to say about our local Red Wings here and what is going on. And for this, here we go. Boom.
There it is. Saw that coming. Tic-tac-toe. Florida all of a sudden in control. And again, getting in deep. Notice how they get in deep. Watch the replay here. You're watching at home. It's exactly what you and I were talking about. It's almost like we know this a little bit.
Florida has finally woke up. They're skating. And again, you just don't get in deep. You've got to work. You've got to move. You got to move and work off the puck to get in deep. And they're starting to skate a little bit more. So this is, and the turnover helps here too.
Boom, boom.
And
who's
that dog? Who's that dog? Oh, the point right at him. Like, I got you. But so this series needs this game to get out of hand. Let's go 5-6-1.
Oh, look at this.
Now, this is where they're going to get themselves in trouble.
Swayman getting yanked.
And I don't care how much these guys belly bumping our buddies. You don't have a goalie controversy till you have a goalie controversy. And you can talk all you want here, guy, but you just cut right in there. If you're going to pull them at 4, why'd you put them out there at 3? You don't pull a goalie like that.
Yep.
Come on. It's 4 goals, 5 or 6. But with this said, this will make it interesting because he's going to have to come out immediately after and say Swayman's back in that game 3. But this game gets out of hand. We need some, I keep saying it, my words, piss and vinegar going into this series.
He's pissed. As Adam the Maple Leaf said, terrible turnover. And that's what, if I'm Swayman right now, I'm sitting there going, hey man, I don't know what the conversation was with Monty at the bench, but if I'm Swayman, I'm going, what'd you give me the hook for?
Right.
What,
at 4.
What? And you know what? Are you forgetting some of the big stops I made earlier in this game and how well he played in game 1?
So my guess is, being on the bench before that, what he was saying to him was, this has nothing. It's not you. It's me. It has nothing to do with you.
I've heard that line before.
I need to wake this team up. They're not playing in front of you anymore.
Yeah.
They stopped playing in front of you after the first period, and it was 1-0, and it was cute, and they didn't have to do anything because you were going to make the save, and they've hung you out to dry. So by me pulling you, I'm really calling them out. And if this is a team, Boston's going to rally, and they will get the next goal.
Was that Brazeau barking on that on the off the feed? I think it was Brazeau. Nice back check. Holy shit!
Hey, right back out there. Show me what else you got here, dog.
Mitch Marner. Hey. Couple comments. Oh, I'm going to get on Mitch in just a second. I wish there were in the background behind the coach like in Dallas. Okay, thank you. The very busty woman getting in deep. Don't just get in deep. You got to work and move. Sausage Fest tonight. We're really loading up the drop board with gold tonight. Thank you, Todd. Ted said there's a reason they put his number in the rafters at Wendler. When Trocheck went to the Whalers, that was a kick in the nuts to longtime Spirit fans. Oh, it must have been. No, hey, honestly, and I say that with respect. I hope you know that. I always knew how good Vinny was, but literally calling his games and seeing him 60 minutes a game, you go to a war with a guy like that. And I was telling Mike, I don't remember the exact numbers. I think he put up like 54 points in 20 games or something like that. Like once he joined us, good? He was just on fire. Oh, look at Tina Thibodeau. Look at that. Yeah, look at that. L-Town in the house.
Hey,
Tina, you still work for the Wings, right? Florida is on fire. Yes, they are. I like Florida. I've liked Florida since the beginning. We've liked Florida since the beginning. I'm sticking with Florida.
And but we can stick with Florida all we want, but I'm hard pressed to say that anybody in the East is going to beat a team in the West.
I'm with you.
I think it's totally
no.
different.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
But I've got to throw in before we jump here to Trocheck. He's also playing nasty.
Yes,
and I love it. And that there's so much nasty in that series, and that's what it's right there to be a classic series. D'Angelo is doing everything in his power to fire that up, and they're just not letting it happen.
No, they're working it really hard. 16 and a half left in this one. All Florida right now, looking to tie that series up. Heading back to Beantown. Tina's still there. Tina, good. Ben said, told you it was just rust in game 1. Yeah, they've come on. Ben did say that in the chat. They have definitely come on. And I think they shook off some of the rust in the first period as well, because as we brought up earlier, in case you're just joining us, I mean, you guys saw the same thing we did. Boston was just packing it in deep, and Florida had to put on. I hate to get out the cliche machine, but they had to put on the hard hats and say, you know what, we're going to go beat you down low. We're going to do all the little gritty things that you need to do to work it in deep, and that's where we're at right now. So we went on the rant. We went on the rant about all the penalties called. Come on.
Well, we went on a rant, but we didn't even go on a rant because we didn't talk about I can't even use how upset I am at the penalty call in double overtime.
You can't.
It wasn't a penalty. It wasn't
Sorry.
Cross-checking. There's 52,000 cross-checks in a game, and you call that and cost them that game. Again, their penalty killing absolutely blows right now.
Yep.
But that is an awful, awful call. And so were the two calls before that. Knock it the F off. I mean, it is just infuriating. And what I use these words, Sean, you heard me say it. It's becoming unwatchable.
And that's sad. That's sad. Oh, Kirk and Hubie, two guys that have been over here before, come over again, fellas. Florida going old school. Hubie said brutal call in the double OT.
I knew it was going to be brutal. I was sleeping. But you knew it was going to be brutal when I couldn't even find it on any of the replays. They refused to show it.
Blake said, shout out to ESPN for letting Buccigross do intermission and not call games after the first round. Yeah, we have it on Sportsnet here. I got to be honest with you. I don't even want to take the chance that Bucci's going to call the game. There's no, that's all right. I don't even want to take the chance. So a couple things come into play. When we were younger, okay, and I hope you agree with me, all right? Andy Van Hellemond got a lot of crap for being legitimately the only guy that would call penalties in overtimes. Do you remember that? I'm talking when we're teenagers and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. People used to give him the business, something fierce. And I think there's a happy medium. Okay. I'm not saying let everything go. I totally disagree with that. Okay. I am going to say, if it's blatant, call it. But if it's not blatant, if it's ticky-tack, maybe you let it go, okay? And I know some of you aren't going to agree with me, and that's okay too, all right? But I think when you got the parade type of situation and you get a lot of the ticky-tacks, that's when it gets frustrating for players. And if you don't believe me, I could quote multiple players off the top of my head. I remember, in particular, Chris Chelios went on a rat one time with me when we were doing a show together. And he said, the guys don't mind. If you want to set the tone and say, boys, this is a way we're going to call the game, we don't mind it, but just be consistent. Yeah, that's all guys are looking for. If that's the way you're going to do it, okay, then we know where the line is and we have to move accordingly. But when you're inconsistent with it, that's when the issues start.
Yeah, and like you said, the ticky-tacky stuff, there's things that you call. You call when you take a scoring chance away, when you create a scoring chance, when there's an injury such as a high stick, then the automatics that you have to call now are over the glass.
Yep.
And a slash on the broken stick.
Got to do it.
There's things you have to call. People will be like, oh, that. If you watch the game with us, we will sit here, and we did it already tonight for at least 2 of the 3 penalties. Like, you can't do that. That's a penalty. Then maybe another one wasn't a penalty. But consistency, because you said if you are going to set the bar, if you're going to say this is the standard, that's a strong statement. Then you have to follow that standard.
100%.
You can't not then do it. So then this is what was pissing me off this morning watching the highlights was a guy was using that word. They set the standard early when they called those 2 tripping penalties that they were going to call penalties. That effing doesn't matter.
No.
That's not a standard.
No.
You can't just call because you're going to call. You call things that are penalties, and that wasn't a penalty.
Nope.
I don't care what your standard is.
Couple things. I still want to get this out of the way. The draft lottery is an absolute joke. I know I had a little rant. He wasn't on last night. I'm going to do the same bit that I did yesterday. I have a crazy idea that nobody's thought of. Are you ready? Why don't you just go in the order in which they finished? I know that's crazy. I know that's revolutionary, but why don't you go in the order in which they finish? Here's the issue that I have is this. do they think for a second that having a lottery is stopping people from tanking in their own way? You cannot be that stupid in league offices to think that you are impeding somebody from doing that.
Their own people even came up with the term this year, slacking for Macklin. Why are you saying that? Because you know what happens. And it's funny you bring up that, why don't you just let them draft in the order that they finish? Because I don't know if you remember, it wasn't that long ago, let's say maybe 2 weeks ago, there was this thing down in Detroit where 700,000 people showed up to see.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
The NFL draft.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
This NFL draft kind of thing that's become a big deal. How do they do it? They do it as you finish, right? I mean, the lottery is put in to attract people so that we can watch it, right? That's it. It ain't happening, people.
No.
It ain't. You are not the NFL. You're never going to get it. People are going to watch your crappy lottery as much as they're going to watch if they.
He's such a rat.
So good.
He's such a rat.
I'd take him any day. As much as if you just let it lie as it is.
Yep.
It's what it is, and it is what it is. Let them do it. The worst teams are the worst teams.
So lots of comments here. Our buddy Kirk, the coach, said, agree, Mike. You cannot make that call in OT. Ted asked, how do you get Sportsnet? I do have CBC. It's the CBC feed, so I do have CBC. Kirk said that would be logical to go in order of finish. Tim said, my compromise would be if a team is proven to be tanking, forfeit their first round pick. I'll get back to that in just a second. Jim said, because you get TV drama of the Rangers winning the lottery with the worst chance to win it. Ted, I have Sportsnet with CBC. The CBC carries the Sportsnet feed. So let me go back to what Tim said. Tim said, my compromise would be if a team is proven to be tanking, forfeit their first round pick. I am going to use the Montreal Canadiens as an example. Okay? Mike, the Montreal Canadiens decided with 2 games to go in the season,
okay,
we are going to call up straight from college Lane Hudson, and we're going to call up basically straight from junior Logan Mailou.
Yep.
All right? Okay? Now ask yourself this question. If the Habs were going for number 1 overall, is that something that they would be doing? The answer is no. We all know that, right? You're going for number 1 overall. You're not going to throw 2 fresh bloods out there, no matter how good you think both of them will be. One of them I think is pretty good. The other one I think is really good for the record, okay? So, but again, under the guise of, no, we're getting them experience, and that's good. Those are things that teams do. Let's give this guy a chance. Let's give this guy a chance. And if the Wings, now look to the other side of the ice, those last 2 games. If the Wings weren't playing for their playoff existence, might there be a chance that they give somebody a call up a couple games and say, well,
maybe Kosa.
Right. Let's see what he has here. Some friction starting up and everything. So as Blake said, why them, Homer? Because I'm calling them out. That's tanking. It is. I mean, think about it. It is. In their own way, that's tanking. What's the you want to put your best team on the ice to give yourself the best chance to win and everything. No knock against both those kids, because I think they both are going to have long careers in the National Hockey League. But it goes against conventional wisdom to throw 2 kids out there in arguably the biggest games of the year. Those games meant nothing to the Habs. Nothing to the Habs. And credit to Marty St. Louis for getting the boys to get going and everything. But you're not going to do that if there's stakes in those games, right?
Yeah, no. But again, it also gets to the point of what's this standard you're going to set to call tanking? When is tanking
100%?
And when is tanking? Because
look what Chad just said. Chad, I'm with you.
Right.
How do you prove tanking?
Because what do we cry all the time here in Detroit? Bring the kids up.
Yep.
Bring the kid. Someone might say that is tanking. Now you're going to lose your first
Polkinen's going to score 40 goals a year.
So you just I hear what he's saying. I don't care about tanking.
Neither do I. I don't care.
I've never lost sleep over tanking. If you want to lose, go ahead and lose. Go for it. I can't see it being set so much that you're going to have some great team just come down and now all of a sudden they've got the number. And you know what? Good for you. Power for you.
I couldn't agree with you more. I don't have any problem with tanking Polkinen, Nyquist, Tatar. They're the next Euro twins. We get infatuated with what's next. A lot of times it's warranted, right? I mean, a lot of times listen, I'm going to tell you point blank. I thought Anthony Mantha would be a pretty good player. I did. I didn't think he'd be a stud or anything. I thought he'd be a pretty good player, and we saw what he turned out to be. But sometimes what happens is these legends start to grow, especially once the legend of Timo Pulkkinen was unbelievable. I cannot tell you how many people were like, why isn't Pulkkinen playing? He's not that good. Why don't we give him minutes? You don't just give a kid minutes. It doesn't work that way, and that's, we had that conversation more times than you could shake a stick at. But with that being said, to go back to the whole tanking thing, I don't know how you prove it other than if you say we're going to sit 5 of our best players the last 2 games for load management. How do you prove it, right?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't even do that. And again, that is all fine and dandy. There's no guarantees on anything. Your generational hockey talents aren't every year. They come and they go. I'm not sold on Celebrini.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm not. I mean, and then how many? I mean, it's usually maybe 3 guys that play right away.
I don't think.
It's
all right. Now I'm gonna sound sorry. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sound like a snob here. Okay.
All right.
Are you ready?
Go snobby.
Well, and I think I've had the fortune in the past 20 years of seeing so many of the guys in this game up close and personal.
Yes.
Okay. One of the terms that drives me out of my mind in sports today is generational talent.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because you're number 1 doesn't mean that you're going to be a stud.
Right.
It just doesn't. I'm sorry. And I listen, Macklin Celebrini might be a really good player.
Yes.
Okay. But this isn't, I'm sorry. This isn't Bedard.
No.
Okay.
It's not Bedard. It's not McDavid.
It's not McDavid.
It's
right. And that's the kind of stuff that drives me out of my mind is I think, unfortunately, we've turned some of these kids into, hey, listen, can I give you my own example?
Yes, sir.
I had a front row seat for Tyler Taylor.
Yep.
I literally had a front row seat for Tyler. Okay. Can we look at their careers now 14 years later? Good players.
Yeah.
They're good. They're good players.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But there's a difference between being look at that. Whee! 5-1.
This has gone. These last 2 periods have just gone night and day here. Florida has just absolutely dominated.
Adam said generations are every 4 years now, right? Cute prospects are cute. What did Chad? Every year, sometimes 2 guys. No, you're right.
I mean, I think it's not that long ago that, I mean, so where I'm going to put this one, I don't know if you're going to agree with me, Celebrini is the Lafreniere. Everyone was Google guy. He's a very nice player. And he's coming into his own right now, but they were using the generational term with him. And I'm like, he's good. I don't see it.
Like Jim said with Lafreniere.
Yeah. There you go.
He's all right. I think the people that gave up on him are a little. No, you don't think so, do you?
But everyone was sold on him. I know, but everyone was saying
that bad though, right?
Oh, come on. No. I don't think they're going to be that. No. But I'm saying the use of that term. Like it gets thrown out. Yeah. I mean, it is fun. I don't know. You hear it way too much. Like you hear all these guys. I'm like, that term's used for a reason. When you can watch these kids and I'm going to be very interested to see. I'm going to mess this name up. Is it McKenna? The young he was just playing in the U18s with Canada and led a turn. Going to be because when you're that young and you're dominating against those older kids like that on that stage, that's usually your first tell of things that are going to come. Like and he was really good. That's where you saw like a Crosby stand out.
No, and a lot of guys are saying this is going to get ugly. Here we go.
Oh, Frederick's going nuts.
Here we go.
Dancing.
Oh, look at that.
That was so cute.
Well, you knew this was coming.
Yep. Punch him again, Frederick.
There's no doubt.
Oh, now let go. Oh, look at him rubbing it. This is what we needed.
This was coming. I don't know if the Bruins want to do this. I gotta be honest with you.
I think that this is going to wake Florida up. Oh,
I don't know if the Bruins.
Do you remember how we used to play hockey, guys?
Yeah.
And here we go. And you also, again, to get back to the refereeing where we started, you get a lot of this crap right here when you don't let the boys be boys,
right? And
you don't let the game breathe, and you don't let them play. Then every whistle they've got to play.
Perfect. Look what Jim just said. Shane Wright. Okay.
Yeah. Well, boom.
Now, Blake, you know how you called me a homer earlier and that was misguided? Now you can call me a homer and you're spot on. Do you know how much crap the Habs got for not taking Shane Wright? And full disclosure, I was even scratching my head a little bit, okay? Because, again, now consider the source. I worked in junior hockey for 17 years, okay? Called games, whether it be OHL, called games in the USHL. So my vantage point was more so on the kid playing in the OHL or the USHL or the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, Western Hockey League, et cetera, okay? So for me, I thought I knew what Shane Wright was, okay? And I thought that there was a reason why everybody was talking about Shane Wright being number one for a year leading up to that draft. And then the Habs go and take Slavkovsky, okay? Now, let me start with this. Come here. Here's a little goal scorer right here. Almost on cue. You know what happened to that guy's career, Mike? You know what happened? Marty St. Louis said, you know what we're going to do, kid? You're struggling. But we're going to put you with our captain, Nick Suzuki, and we're going to put you with Cole Caulfield. And let me tell you something. And now this is where I need you to talk because nobody's going to listen to me. How good did that kid look the last 3 months of the year?
That's all me and you talked about.
Every night he was one of the best players on the ice.
And every night there was a certain person that had him anytime goal. I don't know who, but somebody.
Yep, no doubt about it. So anybody remember that? We were just talking about this. Alexander Dang. That was
what I whispered.
Boy, he looked the part, didn't he? He looked the part. Handsome, dashing, wide open game. And unfortunately, he turned out to be kind of the prototypical Quebec Major Junior Hockey League player of the 90s.
Yeah.
So they produced so many of those types of players. The guys that put up the big numbers and everything. And it just didn't match.
So do you agree with what they're doing here? They have tossed everybody.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
You say calm it down?
Yeah, just calm it down. Calm it down.
Okay.
Well, this is, you know what it is, Mike? This is right now. This is take a number. Like for me, it's take a number. What so there's nothing to be gained out of this right now. Settle the shit crap down.
Okay. I can't get mad at it, but when I'm looking at it, the optics of it was Frederick's gotta go. He threw 52 punches while being held. The rest of the guys all offsetting twos. Now, if they want to come back out and start, but that's why I say I don't argue it because that's what the refs don't. As a fan, that's what I want to have happen. I need this to continue. I need a little bit of hate. They want to get rid of the stupidity. This is going to be one of those games where there's 5 guys on the bench by the end of the game.
No, but seriously, Jim, I'm glad that you brought up Shane Wright because now, Blake, you can call me a homer because I'll tell you what. 3 years in the rearview mirror, the Habs looked really, really smart. That I'm not saying that this kid's going to be a generational talent. Or look at Mr. Carmanis behind the bench. Shout out to Mr. K. But did that look like Mr. Carmanis? I look up and I was like, "What's Mr. Carmanis sitting behind the bench?" But no, I'm not saying the guy's going to be generational or anything like that. But boy, 3 years later, who would you rather have? I think you're an idiot if you say you'd rather have Shane Wright over that kid any day of the week, right? No, it's really. I'm going to look up Daig's numbers because I don't want to see the documentary.
No,
I
was just
going to
say, yeah, there's a Netflix isn't it Netflix documentary?
Yes.
I had it marked down to watch.
Handsome looking guy. Who can forget 93 draft? I'm going to look up his career statistics. Okay. This is a guy that put up $137 in his last year at junior in Victoriaville. Okay. 51 games as an 18-year-old, or 51 points as an 18-year-old. 37 points, 17 points, 51 points, 26 points with. Oh boy!
This is what
this is
what I was. There it is.
There it is.
Lick them, Marshawn. Yeah.
We might get more.
You know what this is right here? Game's over. I'm gonna go hit the shower. So here we go.
Oh,
pasta!
I love it.
Pasta. Someone better come save pasta.
You better save him.
Someone better.
It is Reinhardt, so it's maybe it's not as bad as it looks.
Give him his Duncan.
So Daig, 616 games played, 327 points, 129 goals. Number overall. It isn't the given that people think it is. It drives me out of my mind. It isn't the given that people think it is with NHL players, and that's why I always yell when I hear generational player. It's like, no, quit throwing that goddamn term around. You know,
he's fake licking Marshawn. You see him?
Yeah, absolutely. Paul said the documentary's pretty good. I'll watch it.
Yeah,
I'll watch it.
I've been meaning to.
I will.
I got some time off coming up. I'll have to watch it.
Lindros was generational until he looked down too much. Eric Lindros was unbelievable. In my mind, Mike, I don't know if you and I have ever had this conversation, okay? Mm-hmm. In my mind, I don't think enough is said about how good Eric Lindros was. And I mean that in all sincerity. Honestly, he was phenomenal. The thing that always made me laugh, and you know this better than anybody, okay? You can't ask a guy to be something that he isn't, right?
We say it all the time.
He's got to change his way, the way he plays the game.
Yes.
It's his DNA, man. Yeah. You're not okay. I'm 6'5", 245 pounds, and I'm not going to skate around like I'm the biggest guy on the ice. It doesn't work that way.
That's how he got to where he was as a 15 and 16-year-old, just dominating and bodying people. But I'll never forget. So if you go back to when he spent his time here with CompuWare and Andy Weidenbach was his coach.
You know who he lived with, right?
Veluch, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he did his time there and talking to Andy Weidenbach, which was just always a pleasure. The guy's got unbelievable stories from what he's done. Even in juniors, as a 16-year-old, when he had him before he left for Oshawa, was trying to get him to pick his head up. Because when you're that big at that young of an age, you don't have to. Because no one's going to come near you. I watch a lot of young kids coming up. I'm sure, Hubie, you've been in the youth game for a while, and we watch these bigger kids come across the middle with their heads down because there's no one that big to hit.
Nope.
But then when you get into juniors, you get into the NHL, everybody's that big. And you're going to run into a Scott Stevens, which
it was and I think, in Ted, I know you're a big OHL guy. I think a lot of times, especially now, the term bigger, stronger, faster obviously is real. A lot of times, Mike, that point that you speak of, that's kind of shaken out of a guy at 16.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of
got to.
Because trust me, I've seen some really big guys and guys that went on to the NHL that thought that they could get away with some of that stuff at 16, and they're playing against 20-year-olds. And are they? Come on, are you serious?
You leave Kachuk by himself with
pasta?
Yeah, but you want some Duncan?
I would love to hear that conversation. Look at Kachuk. Happy as a pig in shit. Look at him. Happy as a pig in shit.
Coach, you hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
You hurt my feelings.
A lot of kids believe their own hype and get used to dominating lower levels without having to work hard. That's also why so many big guys don't play super physically. McAvoy's not having a good game tonight at all. Where's Youngblood?
He's got his face smashed.
How is this arena not playing Sweet Caroline right now? That comes from Ben. Marshad needs to grab a rat off the ice. That would be epic if he did that. Could you imagine that? That would be epic.
It would be something he would do too.
Chad said that movie needs a sequel. Youngblood is a coach, Rocky's kid on the team. Tim said
you don't do sequel movies now. Don't you make a series like they did with the Karate Kid one, the Cobra Kai, right? You get a nice series.
Didn't they try it with like the Mighty Ducks too? I didn't watch the debacle, but
no. But if you were gonna bring Youngblood back, you
going with Kachuk. Yes! Oh my gosh! Yes! What are you doing? I think he's I gotta give the guy credit. I gotta give him credit. That's the way to go. That's what I'm talking about.
he's gonna throw the rat.
I mean, you got your
They went
skull crush. That's my guy. Keith. Look at Keith. Look how happy Keith is.
Where's Pasta's dad?
Look how happy Keith is. Look at the smile on his face. Trust me, I saw that smile up close and personal a few times.
That is great.
I'm gonna give him a text. Sorry, I'm name dropping. I'm gonna give him a text. That's awesome. That was really cool.
What the heck just happened? That was great. Maurice is like, all right, this is out of control now.
You know what's really funny? Tim brought up the Lindros and his attitude towards French Canadians. I kind of know the inside there. Do you know the inside of that? Do you know the number one reason why he didn't go to the Nordique? Do you know the inside?
Mm-mm.
I don't know how much I can say. You can look some of this stuff up if you guys are interested. Their owner was a guy by the name of Marcel Aubu, and I think some of our Canadian viewers will be familiar with that. Ah!
Great!
That's
That is
awesome!
great. They come right off the bench.
That's his dick back. Yeah.
You what? I'll tell you what. You know my love for Kachuk. Pasta just went up a notch.
You have
Pasta
to.
just went up a notch.
Especially after taking that shot and coming back at him, right?
Oh, that was great.
But Tim said, go ahead, Sean. It's been over 30 years. All right, so I'm going to say part of this, and I'm going to let you guys look up the rest of it, okay? The owner of the Nordique, and our Canadian viewers probably know this even better, a guy by the name of Marcelo Bou was not exactly the nicest human being, and there were some pretty serious allegations against him, and it was alleged, and this is the part I don't know to be true. I know part of it to be true, but I don't know if this part is true. It is alleged that he said something very disrespectful to Eric Lindros' mother en français, not knowing that Madame Lindros spoke en français. So that is evidently at that moment. Well, I thought he was going to get another one. Evidently, in that moment, the Lindros family decided as a unit, we are not going to Quebec.
Okay.
And if you remember, they told them ahead of time.
Yes.
Don't draft me.
I remember that part.
And then the crazy thing is when they handed him the jersey and he refused to put on the jersey and everything. Now, the funny thing about this, the backstory to this is Eric Lindros. Do you know who his wife is? A young lady from the city of Montreal.
Okay.
And part of the wedding party, and you can actually look this up, is they were all wearing Habs jerseys. And I'm not going to lie to you, seeing Eric Lindros in a Habs jersey kind of like made me happy. Just like watching Keith Kachuk with a big smile on his face made me very, very happy, to be honest with you. So this is good stuff. All right.
Okay.
Adam said, don't break a hand. Pasta. Ted said, give Pasta credit. He didn't shy away. Tip of cap.
You got to turn the game down.
Oh, I got to turn the game down?
The game on the microphone.
Oh, is that what it is?
I don't know which one it is. They said to tell you.
I don't know what it means.
We blew it up when we screamed at Kachuk and Pasta.
Oh, did we really? That's funny. That's great. I don't know what gain is. Maybe Blake can tell us. Is it this
It's
one?
this one back here.
Okay, you turn that down.
I don't know. Maybe I'm turning it up.
Jason said, I'm going to carve you up, Racky. Adam said, so I've spent decades thinking he's a baby, and now I agree with him, meaning Eric Lindros. Chad said, so because the Nords owner was a dick, the Avalanche got the players to win a cup, basically.
Yeah.
So you can actually, this is something you can look up if you don't believe me. There was an interview with Eric on a Quebec City television show not too long ago where he finally put on a Nordique jersey. And it's actually really funny to watch.
Okay.
And then CBC interviewed him and he said, I never had a problem against Quebec. I never had a problem against anybody from Quebec. Heck, my wife is from Montreal.
Right.
He said, my issue was with Marcel Aubout,
The owner.
Now, yeah. So again, this is the part that I've heard. I don't know for sure. You can read the allegations online. Evidently, there was a conversation between some of the Nordique brass and the Lindros family, and almost like the girls at Le Cage au Sport,
Oh, yeah.
they didn't think that somebody amongst us knew how to speak French. So I heard every single word that these girls said, and we played dumb for a few minutes until I told them, I understand what you said. So Marcel Aubout looked at his, I think it was Pierre Pagé. I could be wrong, but I think it was Pierre Pagé, said something flippantly to Pierre Pagé, and Mrs. Lindros is sitting right there going, I can't believe that dumbass just said that. I'm standing 3 feet away. I understood every word he said.
And that probably caused.
Look at, there's the picture. There's Eric in his Habs jersey.
Now
I told
you can say that that got the Avalanche the cups, but that cost Quebec probably a franchise.
Yep, and there's Eric in the Nordique jersey.
Oh boy!
So that was, he went on that show, and it was in English, by the way. You can find it. He went on the show and basically told the whole story without that other part that.
Right.
I have very good reason to believe it's true.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe me, you can go look it up, and it's out there that there was allegedly something very disrespectful said. And Mrs. Lindros, Eric's mother, heard the comment and was like, yeah, we're not playing for this guy.
Yeah, no.
Because there were already bad things out there about him. And if you look up Marcel Aubout, you can see what some of those bad things were. So that's kind of the story. That's kind of the story about that. Jim said, what did Sean serve up for snacks? Did he cheap out? Now, Jim, you can say whatever you want about me. Really. I would hope that, and especially anybody who's ever been over my house, I would hope that the word cheap is not a word that would be thrown around.
Never.
Michael, you couldn't throw the word cheap around.
No.
We had andouille sausage. We had cheese sausage. We had dogs, and Mike was kind enough to bring over firecracker sausage from
Village.
Yes, you can come over and eat my meat this afternoon. So unfortunately, I couldn't fire my smoker up. It was actually about the next alumni game. I can't tell you just yet. He knows, but there's a new alumni game coming up.
Yeah.
And some of the guys that have already said that they're going to be a part of it, it's going to be bigger than the other two we've had. I'll leave it at that. So really looking forward.
We just have to. It just has to get set on a date that I'm actually in town.
Blake said you can call Sean a lot of things. I think Jim hit a nerve. Absolutely. Blake, you've been over my house many times. You don't ever call me cheap. I take care of my boys. You come over my house, I take care of my boys. Always.
Yeah. We never starve here.
Look at Ben showing me love. Sean feeds you like you are royalty.
Oh, yeah.
Ben, thank you.
And like an army.
You're never going to walk away from my house hungry. See, there's still food. Blake. Blake doesn't like my food, but he said you don't cheap out. Thank you.
Today, Sean doesn't like his own food. He refuses to eat that last.
No, I said that's for you. Look at Cole. He's done. Yeah. He's had his shifts here tonight.
This third period has tuckered him out.
All right, so 6-1. You know what we wanted to talk about? Mike, I'm going to ask you point blank. I think I know the answer to this. The greatest fighter of all time is
Pasta. I mean, come on. And it's not just because of the hometown. It's Probert.
It's Bob Probert.
It's Probert.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You guys know who Bob Probert's the best.
There's plenty of guys out there that I don't remember, and I was too young and too little. You know, the Broad Street Bullies, Schultz, stuff like that. But I can't get past. It's got to be Probert. I think even old time guys would say it.
So when I was a kid, you know this, Dave the Hammer Schultz. There was like you lived in fear. You said the name, and it sent a shiver down your spine. You know when I fell in love with Larry Robinson, right?
Yeah, you were telling us the other day.
Yeah, you can look up the video.
Yeah,
Larry Robinson grabbed Dave the Hammer Schultz, allegedly the toughest guy in the game, and beat the living piss out of him. Beat the living piss out of him so much that one of his goon teammates had to come and save his ass because Larry was whipping him up.
Yeah.
And you know the old comment, and I think it's attributed to Mark Messier, but Mark Messier would always say, "Don't wake 19 up. Don't wake 19 up." I'm not saying he was the toughest guy in the game, but you know that was part of the reason why I absolutely loved I absolutely loved Larry Robinson. Chad said, I think Sean should hold a contest and he picks 5 winners to come over for a cookout. I'd do something like that.
Oh,
if you guys want to come over, absolutely.
Yeah,
I don't care. Yeah, sure.
No, we
could figure something like that. Maybe we could do it
sure.
for charity. I don't know, something like that. Come over. Look, he and I, there's no other way to say this. A lot of times we'll start at like 8 o'clock in the morning and we'll get done at like, 5, 6 or whatever.
Yep.
Kind of do the all day smokes. And sometimes we've even used 3 smokers over here.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
It's a true story.
I'd bring you. You'd have your 2 and I'd bring mine over.
Yep, absolutely. Nick said Don Cherry was asked on his podcast, Probert, no question. I think most of the legends would say, I think Chris Nyland would say that. I do. We had Chris Nyland on the show, and I think Chris Nyland would say that.
Okay.
I will say this, though. I think the most frightening guy may have been Joe Kosher. The fists of iron and what he did to Kite, and I know we were both at that game.
When he killed Kite.
He killed him.
When he killed that sent a different kind of fear. Like he could kill you. Probert was going to outlast you and pound you. And if you happen to get the best of Probert, which the guys got the best of Probert at times, the next time you were done.
Yeah. Look what Hubie said. I've seen 3 smokers and the big pig roast.
Yes, this is
Poor
true.
Newton.
Poor Newton. Can you tell me that's not Isaac Newton?
That's still the greatest nickname ever. We really did. That was the one where it was October, and I think everybody had been kind of sick and tired of being locked up in the house. And Mike, at one point in time, how many people? We probably had 100 people walking around my driveway and in the backyard.
Yes.
Then McCarty was out there signing autographs and taking pictures for everybody because Matt came over, and it was that was a good time. But we had so much. And then the one we did a year later was when I think I gave Blake like a 10-pound slab of brisket alone. Like we had so much food left over. Let's see. The deep fryer Mike was obsessed with. Remember that? Jason said Kosher was the Mike Tyson of the NHL. He connected. It was over in one good punch. He was frightening. He was frightening. So Mike and I were looking at some old videos, and we were talking about the times that you could say Probert lost. And the only ones we could think of, and he found another one, was Crowder beat him the one time, Domi beat him the one time, and then Todd Ewan got the best of him in the fight.
Knocked him out.
Yeah.
Knocked him out.
Isn't that funny?
I remember
the
that.
late Todd Ewan, I might add.
I remembered that fight. I remember I wasn't getting it straight because St. Louis had a few guys. They had Kelly Chase, Tony Twist, and Todd Ewan.
Yep.
And I knew it was one of them because I was at a party, and I, of course, anytime I walked into a party on a Saturday night, I went right there and I turned the game on, watching the game. And I remember seeing that, and I can't believe what I just saw.
Yeah. All right. So this is going to be a 6-1 final. We're going to keep talking because, I mean, why not? You guys are here and we're talking about hockey. Can we keep going, boys? Todd and Blake, is it all right if we just keep going? I mean, if you guys, Todd said, yeah, that sounds good. Todd's got fireworks behind him. There was I wanted to, Kosher Kite is on YouTube. It's frightening. Tim, it's frightening. I was there. I thought Kite died. I'm not even being funny. I thought I thought the dude died. I mean, it was downright frightening. Domi was a tank. He absolutely was. One good punch. That's how I got Johnny Boychuk.
Yep.
One good punch. He was lighting me up, and I just put my head down, Mike, and I went like this. I was just going, one good punch, one good punch. And I caught that son of a bitch right underneath his jaw and then stood over him. What now? Boychuk. Some of the great brawls. When you think of great brawls, I told you one year on the Stony and Wojo radiothon, I got to do a shift with Chris Chelios from like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. And we were like little kids looking. This is the early days of like YouTube. And we were like looking up the early YouTube videos. Okay. And it's funny because when you think about Chelly, think about the front row seat he had for so many of these unbelievable like brawls and things like that.
Yeah.
The Good Friday Massacre. He was there.
He was there.
Right? The Hextall incident. I mean, he was a central figure, right? It's amazing when you think about it.
Was he there for the brawl in the hall?
He was there for the brawl in the hall. He was there for the funniest thing about the brawl in the hall to me is like if you watch that video.
Oh, I hope we go in the same place because I've always had one and I wanted to ask Knuckles when we had him on.
All right, go ahead.
No, you go with yours and I'll tell you if it's
Mike McPhee and Terry O'Reilly staring each other down. Like I honestly thought they were going to fight. Like every time I watch the video, every time I watch a video, it's like they're going to fight. Yeah. I know damn well they're not going to fight. Yeah. But like the way they were looking at each other, it was like, okay, you know O'Reilly wants to fight him right now. Yes. You know he fucking wants to fight him.
There was a couple. If you watch that video, there's a couple like that where they're just waiting. The one guy's waiting for this. Mine was, if you watch in the background, Patrick Watt. Yeah, bounces along the thing, and then he goes down the hall. I always want to know where he goes and what happens.
How about another great thing? And we had this guy on the show is Memesso. Yes. When Memesso comes running down the hall. And he stops at the end of the hall and he goes like, and he sees where all the action is, and you just see his hyper body going the other way. It's just like so damn good. Oilers about to get started right now. This is an intriguing series. Mike, I was telling you guys the other day, this is another one of those series. It seems like everybody is taking Edmonton in this series, and I'm taking
heavy
Vancouver.
favorite. Heavy favorite.
I'm taking
heavy.
Vancouver.
You know,
sorry to my buddy Bachu's watching. Sorry.
You know that's where I want that to go, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And you absolutely know that's where I want to go. But this Edmonton team is one that is going to be very interesting to watch here and see what they do. They have the makeup of a team that could go. I don't like the goaltending, but I could say the same thing about Colorado, and I picked Colorado. I think Edmonton could be the only team that could match Colorado's speed. I don't know if they can match their skill and their size, but to me, they're a team that if they get through here, which I hope they don't, could give either Dallas or Colorado fits.
Right. Hubie brought up a great point. Back in the 80s, it was great. Kordic, Beers, Miller, the boys from the Blues, Grimson, Semenko, the missing Link. Link was a little bit later, but let me say this. This is why I think the league misses the home and home. Yeah. I used to look. If you knew if Todd Gill and Proby went on Friday, they were going to go again in the return engagement. Jay Miller and Chris Nyland, you knew, okay, they had one. That let's get it out of the way the first couple minutes of the game the next night. I loved it. It was fantastic.
And this is exactly why my Kings lost. You can't stay out of the box. You just can't do this
Not against this team. Not against this team.
But you get in that. When you had the home and homes, I not necessarily wanted that fight the first game. I wanted to be on edge. Mm-hmm. Have something happen that then you knew it was going to, because remember what would happen is you would have the big fight or something big would happen. The commissioner or someone shows up to the next game and sits there in the front row and would cock block it, right? I would like it to be right about there. Maybe someone got a high stick or maybe a little bit of a cheap shot. And then you knew what was going to happen because it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't to get too blown up, but you knew it was going to happen. It happened all the time.
You know, it's kind of funny. Jim mentioned Kordic, and I've heard Chris Nyland say this a few times, being his teammate. John Kordic was a guy that didn't want to fight, which almost made him more frightening to me.
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He didn't want to fight, but yet at the same time, he roided up and he got himself into such that cocaine, fix and everything. Like, do you want to face that guy? That was like coked up Proby.
Yeah.
Come on, he's bad enough as it is, but now you add that to it?
Yeah. No.
Oh my goodness gracious.
What was it? Shelly that was telling the stories of, like, you would see it and you would know exactly what was going on. And
Absolutely.
It was the scariest thing ever.
Absolutely. No doubt. Dave said this is going to be a great series. Jim said, am I the only person who thinks Florida loses the next 3? Yes. Shocker that Edmonton converted on the power play. Wow. Zach Hyman. He might have 70 goals in the playoff. He might. He might have 70 goals. Adam said, normally I root against the Oilers, but I also like formerly crapped on goalies that find their game. So I'd like to see Skinner and the Oilers make a run.
If they get 4 or 5 power plays a game, it's not good.
It's not
even going to be close.
No doubt. Chad said, I both missed the Goons and I'm glad they're gone. I enjoyed fighting, but kosher fighting Domi didn't do anything to protect Yzerman. I think there's something interesting to me. That one. There's something interesting to me about that. I think there were guys. Chris Nyland could play hockey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Bob Probert could play hockey.
Mm-hmm.
There were guys in the league that couldn't play hockey. Okay, the one guy that always comes to Mick Vukota. Do you remember Mick Vukota, the Islanders?
Yep.
He could barely skate.
Yeah.
Honestly, now don't tell Mick I said that because he might kick my ass. I don't need that in my life. So there were guys that could play that happened to fight. Okay, I am glad that we got rid of the no good.
Right.
I am. I'm like, really. If you can't play, why are you going out there, right?
Well, you've got the
Todd Ewan. Todd Ewan wasn't good.
No. You've got the stories of the teams that would literally take like bouncers from bars, and put them on skates, and they were that was more minor league crappish, but that's how some of these guys got started. There's no room. You can't, especially in the game today. And I am glad. I like the game where it's at. I do think it gets over officiated at times. We've had that conversation. I hope we're past it. But the goon part, the guys that can't play and they sit on the end of the bench and they get 2 minutes and 2 minutes on the ice and 20 minutes in penalties.
Yep. Couple other comments. Man, this Edmonton power play is absolutely lethal. You're absolutely right. You're not going to win a series. You take penalties against them. Jim said, I wish a team would just put together a team of Leaf cast-offs to go win a cup. Chad said, who was it that got told being on the ice during stoppages didn't count as time on the ice? Do you know that? I don't know that one. Sorry. He said the Wings kind of did that in the 90s. Jason said Probert was underrated as a player. People can only remember him as a fighter. Couldn't agree with you anymore, Jason. Bob Probert could play. Chris Nyland could play.
Yeah.
He did. Now towards the end, I think Chris would be the first person to say it. His body was shot.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to happen. But, at the end of the day, this is a situation where, those guys could play, and that would, I still remember one of the worst trades in the history of all time, Gord Stellick. Do you remember who they traded for John Kordic? Do you remember that trade?
I do not.
Russ Courtnall.
Oh,
hold on. Skinner. Think about that. Russ Courtnall for John Kordic. Now, again, was Russ Courtnall a great player? No. Russ Courtnall had some moments, and boy, you couldn't put a price tag on that explosion that he had coming out of the neutral zone. But I think Gord Stellick looked at a guy like John Kordic and said, that can be my Bob Probert.
Yes.
That can be my guy that gets me 25 to 30 goals and 300 penalty minutes. John Kordic couldn't do that.
No.
And John Kordic was a mess, unfortunately. Rest his soul. I mean, he was an absolute mess, Tim said there was the 1 year Probert was at or near the top in scoring in the playoffs. He was Bob could score. But he had the 1 year, was it 29 goals and over 300 penalty minutes? I mean, Bob was a player. Bob could play. Probert could have been so much better if he wasn't self-destructive. Bob, more than anybody, knew that. You have to trust me when I say that. Bob, more than anybody, knew that. I mean, I don't think he had regret over it. And that's why I always respected Bob, not only the way that he, the book that he wrote where he said, here it all is and laid it all out there, but in conversations that I had, especially with him later on in his life, and I had lunch with him 2 days before he died, he was very aware of that, but I think he was at peace with what he had done. And he wanted to get into broadcasting, and it's just a shame we lost him so early. Adam said his book was great. I wish everybody would write a book like Bob Probert did. And I've said this before, and I'll never say the names, but I've had multiple guys tell me if I were to write a book, I'd like to write it the way that Probert did, and I can't because it takes some guts to do that. Doug Glatt. Right? Don't forget what the Doug Glatt. There he is. There he is. Chad said there was a goon who played maybe 4 shifts a game. Whenever there was a stoppage, he'd jump on the ice to keep loose. Someone on the other team told him, that doesn't count as a shift. I read it in a book. It might have been, why is the Stanley Cup in the bottom of Mario Lemieux's?
That's Kevin Allen, pool? Isn't it? Did he write that book?
It might be.
We got to
talk
book
to Kevin. We need. Well, I could tell you some Stanley Cup stories. Do you know that was, if I'm not mistaken, twice in a 3-year span, the cup ended up in the bottom of a French-Canadian player's pool. I think in 91, it ended up in the bottom of Mario Lemieux's pool. And then in 93, I know it ended up in the bottom of Patrick Waugh's pool. Amazing how that works itself out. And then, of course, the famous one was in 99 where the dude from Pantera? The dude from Pantera allegedly threw it off Craig Ludwig's balcony into he had a Crown Royal shaped pool. And the dude, Dimebag Darrell, I don't know.
That sounds right.
But the dude that was at the party, picked up the cup, threw it off his balcony, and it went to the bottom of his Crown Royal pool in Dallas.
There's always great stories about it. I think in 94 when the Rangers won it, they had it at a bar. They turned their back for a second and the fans took it. They weren't malicious with it. They just walked down the street with it. There's a bunch of people walking down
the street. You and I did that.
Yes, we did.
We did that about 5:00 in the morning one night. At least we thought it was the Stanley Cup.
We'll tell you it was.
Jason said Doug Glatt had to ride piss hole through because he tried to be a player and not a goon. # never forget. Chad said, now I have an excuse to reread all my hockey books. Is there a favorite brawl? I know you got to get to bed. You got to be up in an hour, right? Is that you got to be up in an hour?
Yeah, matter of fact, I'm going right to work.
You want to spend the night?
Sleep over.
Wouldn't be the first time. Is there a favorite brawl? Is there one that sticks out to you that you like more than anything else?
I mean, when we were talking about the massacre with Nyland, that one stuck out to me just because the memory of me yelling at my dad when they came back was for this third period when they came back and they started it right back up again. I remember, Dad, they're going at it again. But I would go back to Probert Crowder too, because I was there. Me and Joe Ahmet bought tickets and Don Cherry sat right in front of us. So we got him to autograph our tickets and watching that. That wasn't a brawl per se, if we're talking brawls with a lot of it, but that as a fight was great. That was one of those crowds that was electric.
Yeah, Blake just yelled at us. You got to turn the gain on the mic down.
Down again?
No. I just saw his text from like a half hour ago because we were going so crazy. It's pretty hard to deny March 26th and everything that happened. That's still, for personal reasons, I'm with you. Good Friday, April 20th, 1984 was unbelievable. People forget about that too, right? Is Quebec was totally in control of that game at the time.
Yeah.
When the brawl happened. Totally in control of that game. And you're thinking to yourself, I remember as a 13-year-old Habs fan thinking to myself, they're going to go back to Quebec City and they're going to lose in Game 7. And then that brawl happened and they absolutely absolutely dominated. All right, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
The warm-up Habs Flyers. Hubie, I told you my story. Do you remember this? Well, you guys probably went through the same thing. We had a huge storm that night. We had one of those spring storms, and the power went out. The power went out like an hour before the game.
Okay.
And I had to drive like an hour to my grandfather's place to watch the game over my grandfather's place, which I never mind watching a Habs game with my grandfather. But we had one of those weird spring storms. And it was funny because like when I got over to my grandfather's house, they're like, you're not going to believe what you just missed. And, you know, back then you couldn't see the highlights. They showed some of the replays in the first intermission, but I didn't see it.
So to me, like you're saying this was the warm-ups.
This was the warm-ups.
So was this when they shot the pucks into the empty net?
Claude Lemieux and Shane Corson. Yeah.
So
Ed Hospitar and Chico Resch jumped him.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. That was, and Nyland's out there. And I heard Nyland say this. He didn't say this to us. He goes, I got one of the strongest guys in the National Hockey League out there in nothing but a t-shirt. What can I grab onto?
Right.
He goes, honestly, he's just this big bull. I kept trying to grab, and he goes, I'm just grabbing muscle. He goes,
was that Berube?
Dave Brown.
Dave
Brown.
Brown. That's
Yeah.
right. He was talking about Brown.
And they fought and fought and fought. And you could tell, okay, we're going to rest our arm. You ready to go again? Okay, let's go. And then they'd start swinging again. It was unbelievable. Punch Out and Pistani. A couple guys brought that out. Hubie brought that up. Jim brought that up. Guy Carbonell threw the Stanley Cup in Vinnie Paul's Pantera's pool. Yeah, see? I knew there was some story like that. I think it was, wasn't it? I think it was Craig Ludwig's pool, though, wasn't it? I think it was Craig Ludwig's pool, if I'm not mistaken, that they did that into. But it was the dude from Pantera. I just know that story. So Jason said, how can anyone forget March 26th is the day I proposed to my wife in 2017? That's funny. All right, you ready to go? Oh, wait a second. What did Blake say? Oh, I'm quoting Blake here. Don't forget to pub the YouTube on the way out. Subscribe to YouTube. Can you do us a favor?
Please.
Like, seriously. So it says right now in the room, there's 269 of you. If you haven't subscribed to YouTube yet, could you do that for us, please? That'd be really cool. We'll do this again next week. I love doing this. I don't know if you guys know this. I like talking hockey. I do.
Can I make a request?
Yeah.
That we do it early in the week?
When do you want to do it?
Somebody's got to fly out to Vegas to see Pearl Jam.
All right, we can do that.
Yeah, I fly out Wednesday.
So next week, why don't we say we'll do What the Puck on Tuesday
the 14th?
Yeah, is that cool? Yeah.
What?
That Probert McSorley fight, do you remember that one? That went on forever. That might be the greatest fight, like single fight of all time. Yeah. That went on forever. Boy, was Marty a big boy. I don't think people realize how Marty's upper body, dude, he was packed. Unsyndicated pod on YouTube. If you would be so kind, we would love for you to do that. All right. So programming note for Todd and for Blake. We'll do What the Puck next Tuesday. Is that all right?
Yeah.
What does the schedule look on Tuesday?
That's what I'm going to pull up right now.
I can't believe we just sat here for the last hour and 23 minutes. Look, we even tired.
Oh, look. According to my schedule, everyone plays at 3 a.m.
Oh, that's nice.
It'll be Bruins Panthers again. It looks like on Tuesday.
We'll do Tuesday,
and we'll do the second period intermission, which would be would that come out about 9? I don't know.
Yeah, 9:15, whatever.
Okay,
yeah,
I'll come right.
All right,
I'll come right.
We'll work out a menu.
Yep.
I'll go to the. I'll make sure that I'm home that day and we can smoke something. How's that?
Yeah,
Is that good?
I will. I said I golf, so I'll come right from golf.
Are you cool?
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. All
right. Hopefully you can join us as well. I hope you guys enjoy this as much as we do. I love chatting with you guys, talking about some stories of the past and things like that. And obviously talking about the games here tonight. Enjoy the action. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Shep and Sean. We got a special one coming up as we continue to look at WDFN at 30. Isn't that insane? But Art Regner is going to be joining us at 10 a.m. tomorrow. In the meantime, thanks for joining us. For Mike, for Cole, I'm Sean. See ya. Bye.
What the Puck, featuring Sean Belegian. Produced by Todd Losey and Blake Matrazek. Executive produced by Sean Belegian and Todd Losey. Theme song and incidental music by Elliot Middleton. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe to What the Puck on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.